By day, they vanish into crowds like ghosts. By night, they dismantle democracies with a keyboard. Welcome to the chilling world of Fancy Bears, the elusive hacker group that doesn't just breach systems, it rewrites global headlines. From Olympic doping scandals to US election chaos, this is cyber warfare with a national flag draped in digital shadows. In this countdown, we expose the 15 most dangerous facts about Fancy Bears, the Russian-linked cyber gang that has turned espionage into a sport. You'll learn their real tactics, the government state target, and the shocking level of coordination behind their attacks. You won't believe what sits at the top of their dark achievements. Let's begin.
Number 1. The origin. They weren't born in a basement. They were built in a bunker because this shadow didn't rise overnight. The hacker group known as Fancy Bears didn't crawl out of some shady chat room. They marched out of Moscow's GRU Unit 26165, a military intelligence division buried behind state walls. That's right, these aren't your average code junkies looking for thrills. These are government-trained cyber soldiers, operating with the cold precision of a sniper and the full weight of a nuclear-armed state behind their keyboards. Back in 2008, when Russian tanks rolled into Georgia, something else was unleashed. The first whispers of a cyber army working quietly in the shadows. They struck first with disinformation campaigns, then ramped up with phishing, leaks, and surveillance. By the time 2014 hit and Crimea was annexed, Fancy Bears had already matured into one of Russia's most prized digital weapons. The US intelligence community didn't mince words. In a declassified report, they said Fancy Bear is almost certainly under direct orders from the Russian government. That's spy speak for, this is real and we know it. These hackers aren't freelancers. They're foot soldiers with keyboards, not rifles. Think of them as a digital SWAT team, except the raid happens silently, and your email is the door they kick down. One former NSA analyst said it best. They're not just hacking systems, they're hacking global trust. And that's the scary part, because when a government uses hackers like pawns, everyone else becomes the board. From journalists to generals, no one's off limits. But if you think Fancy Bears only target governments, wait until you hear how they turned the world's biggest sports event into a global smear campaign. That's up next.
Number 2. Cyber espionage objectives. They don't break into systems just for fun. They break in to plant a flag in your data, your secrets, and sometimes in your country's very sense of safety. Fancy Bears are not hackers for hire or digital pranksters. They're spies with code instead of trench coats. Their true goal? Cyber espionage, quiet, long-term spying that leaves governments rattled and citizens clueless. These guys don't just want files, they want influence, and they'll dig into election servers, NATO emails, defense contracts, and even small-town mayors if it helps paint a bigger picture. They once infiltrated the German parliament in 2015, slipping past digital defenses and walking out with 16 gigabytes of emails and sensitive documents. That's not a prank, that's a full-blown intelligence hole. Like thieves in an art gallery, they don't touch everything, they go straight for the crown jewels. Fancy Bears aren't just stealing secrets, said one cybersecurity analyst. They're studying you, watching your habits, waiting for the perfect time to make your truth work against you. And that's the point. This isn't about random data, it's about strategy. A password today becomes a puppet string tomorrow. Their hacks often come months, even years, before they leak anything. Why? Because timing is power. Timing can swing elections, ruin careers, or break alliances. Think of them like termites in an old house. You don't see the damage until the floor collapses beneath you. But just when you think they're done stealing secrets, they do something even bolder and throw those secrets into the spotlight. Because Fancy Bears don't just spy, they perform. And the next act? It involves the Olympics, some world-class athletes, and a worldwide standoff. Stay close.
Number 3. Olympic Doping EPAC, WADA hack. They didn't throw a punch or run a race, but they still flipped the Olympic world upside down.
In 2016, after Russia got banned from the Rio Olympics for state-sponsored doping, Fancy Bears decided to hit back, not with lawyers, with leaks. They hacked into the World Anti-Doping Agency, WADA, and cracked open a vault of secrets that weren't theirs to tell. Within days, they dumped the private medical records of athletes from the US, Britain, Germany, and more. Names like Simone Biles and Serena Williams suddenly had their medical exemptions blasted across the internet like they'd cheated, even when they hadn't. This wasn't just a hack, it was a digital vendetta, a message that said, ban us, we'll embarrass you. WADA called the breach a criminal attack on the spirit of sport. It's a twisted attempt to retaliate, not to reveal truth, said one senior Olympic official. It's designed to shame, not inform. And it worked. For weeks, the media buzzed with half-truths and twisted headlines. The facts didn't matter, the damage was done. Trust cracked like ice under a heavy boat. Imagine training your whole life only to have your name dragged online by someone hiding behind a screen 5,000 miles away. That's the Fancy Bear method. Use stone facts to shape false stories. Their version of truth, weaponized. But if you think medical records were the worst of it, think again. Because these hackers don't just expose, they infect. And next, we'll look at the very tools that turn their targets into ticking bombs.
Number 4. U.S. election interference. They didn't need to fire a single bullet, just hit send. In 2016, the Fancy Bears pulled off one of the boldest cyber hits in modern political history. Their target? The U.S. presidential election. With a few keystrokes and a carefully crafted fake login page, they slipped into the Democratic National Committee servers like ghosts through a cracked door. What they took wasn't money or passwords, it was trust, and they shattered it in front of the whole world. They dumped over 19,000 emails from top DNC officials. Timing? Right before the Democratic National Convention. The goal? Chaos. And they got it. The leaks exposed internal favoritism, embarrassed party leaders, and lit a firestorm across headlines, giving fuel to conspiracy theories and voter doubt. It wasn't just a hack, it was a political earthquake. U.S. intelligence agencies later agreed this wasn't random, this was a state-backed operation designed to influence a democratic process. Think about that. A foreign group sitting behind screens halfway across the globe managed to shake the core of the world's most powerful democracy using stolen files and a public upload link. It's like watching someone pour poison in the Downs water. Slow, quiet, but devastating. But Fancy Bears didn't just stop at embarrassing emails. Their tactics evolved. Their malware got smarter, and soon they weren't just stealing. They were watching, tracking, and planting the seeds of something worse. Let's look at how they earned the title APT-28 and why that label means these hackers don't quit.
Number 5. Advanced Persistent Threat, APT-28. They're not smash and grab hackers, they're patient predators. APT-28 isn't just a nickname, it's a label used by cybersecurity experts worldwide. It stands for Advanced Persistent Threat, and 28 is the code tied to the group we know as Fancy Bears. But it isn't just about names. The APT tag means something serious. They don't leave. They hide, wait, and bleed information over months, sometimes even years. This crew doesn't come charging through the front door. They slip in through a side window, set up a campfire in your basement, and listen in while you sleep. They've been tracked inside European government networks, military databases, and even US defense contractors, quietly feeding on secrets without tripping a single alarm. One breach lasted over 500 days. That's not hacking, that's occupation. Cybersecurity firm FireEye once said, APT-28 is one of the most sophisticated threat actors we've ever seen. They play the long game, and they play it well. The Bears use custom-built tools like X-Agent and Sulfacy, malware programs that act like ghosts, logging keystrokes, grabbing screenshots, and silently sending everything back to Moscow. Every click becomes a leak. Every delay becomes an advantage. It's like having termites in the Pentagon walls, eating away the structure while the lights are still on. And what makes them truly dangerous? They never act alone. They coordinate, they mimic, they blend into bigger storms, because sometimes the best way to hide your crime is to look like someone else. And that's exactly what we'll uncover next, how Fancy Bears wear other hackers' faces like masks.
Number 6. Signature tactics and tools.
They don't need to kick down doors, they send emails instead. One of Fancy Bear's favorite weapons? Spearfishing. It's quiet, it's personal, and it works. These aren't your usual, you want a prize, scams. These are fake messages dressed in perfect grammar, made to look like they came from someone you trust, your boss, your colleague, your IT department. One wrong click, and boom, they're inside. Once in, they deploy tools with names that sound harmless, but act like spies. X-Agent, for example, is a multi-purpose piece of malware that logs keystrokes, captures screenshots, and even steals files. It works on Windows, Android, and iOS. Yes, even iPhones. Then there's Sofacey, their backdoor malware. It slips in and sits there quietly listening, like someone pressing an ear to the wall of your life. In 2017, researchers discovered Fancy Bears had built fake login pages that looked exactly like Microsoft's. They tricked officials in Europe, the US, and even the UN, gathering passwords like candy on Halloween night. One cybersecurity expert put it plainly. These guys don't just break in, they build the key to your front door, then wait until no one's home. It's like watching a magician pull secrets out of your own pocket, and realizing the trick started days before you even met him. But as sharp as their tools are, Fancy Bears don't always take credit. In fact, sometimes they work extra hard to pretend to be someone else, because if you can confuse your enemy about who hit them, they won't know where to strike back. And that leads us straight into their next trick: digital disguises.
Number 7. False flag operations. Sometimes the most dangerous thief is the one who leaves someone else's fingerprints behind. Fancy Bears aren't just hackers, they're shapeshifters. When the heat is on, they slip into digital disguises and commit their crimes using someone else's mask. This tactic is called a false flag operation, and Fancy Bears are masters at it. It's hacking with a Hollywood twist. Pretend to be someone else, cause chaos, and watch your enemies blame the wrong actor. In 2018, during a high-profile cyber attack on the International Olympic Committee, traces of the malware pointed straight to North Korea. But dig deeper, and experts found breadcrumbs, misspelled Russian words in the code, time zones that matched Moscow hours, and server traffic linked to old Fancy Bear domains. It was a trick, a trap, a digital setup. A top analyst from CrowdStrike said, "They want confusion. They want everyone pointing fingers in different directions while they walk away clean. It's like robbing a bank dressed as the janitor and leaving a getaway note signed by someone in another country. Why go through the trouble? Because chaos is a weapon. If no one knows who hit them, no one knows how to strike back. Governments argue, news stories conflict, and in that fog of confusion, Fancy Bears vanish into silence until the next hit. But their targets aren't always leaders and agencies. Sometimes they go after the heart of a nation. It's hospitals, voting centers, and even sports clubs. Because when you hurt a country's pride, you hurt its people. And that's where we're heading next. Let's talk high-value targets and why Fancy Bears choose them like a hunter picks its prey.
Number 8. High-value targets. They don't waste time on small fish. They go straight for the giants. Fancy Bears choose their targets like a sniper picks a mark, precise, intentional, and meant to make a statement. This isn't just about stealing data. It's about hitting the nerve centers of a country. If you're a NATO, the Pentagon, the German Bundestag, or even a French TV station, congratulations, you're on their list. In one case, they broke into NATO's internal email systems, using simple spear phishing tactics, then quietly monitored military strategies and defense discussions. Another time, they hacked TV5 Monde, a major French broadcaster, and shut down 12 channels in one night, live on air. That's not mischief, that's a message. Their favorite targets often fall into 4 categories: governments, militaries, political campaigns, and international organizations. Why? Because if you hit where it hurts most, you don't just take information. You cause public embarrassment, panic, and mistrust. A cybersecurity official from the UK once said, "Fancy Bears don't just pick high-value targets, they pick symbolic ones, people and places that represent strength. Then they tear that image down."
Imagine someone stealing your country's secrets, then waving them around like confetti on the global stage. That's the Fancy Bear signature. They aim where pride and power meet. But they don't stop at the door. Once inside, they start spinning the story. Leaks become headlines. Lies look like truth. And that's where things turn darker. Because when you control the information, you control the narrative. Next up, it's how Fancy Bears turn stolen emails into digital firebombs.
Number 9. Information warfare. They don't just steal the truth, they twist it until it screams. Fancy Bears aren't satisfied with just breaking into systems. What they really crave is control over the story. Once they get their hands on stolen data, they don't quietly sell it off or vanish. They weaponize it, picking the juiciest bits, editing emails out of context, then releasing it all with headlines designed to ignite outrage. This is information warfare, a war not fought with tanks or bombs, but with emails, fake blogs, and timed leaks. Their 2016 campaign was a masterclass. After hacking the Democratic National Committee, they didn't dump everything at once. No, they released files in waves, just days before key events like the Democratic National Convention. Each drop sent newsrooms scrambling and public trust crumbling. One intelligence officer called it a slow bleed, not a kill shot. The goal isn't to destroy, it's to destabilize. They created fake news sites like DCLeaks.com, posing as whistleblower platforms. They pushed stolen documents through social media bots and fake online identities, stirring division, fueling conspiracy, and making truth look like opinion. It's like watching someone light matches in a dry forest. One spark and the whole place goes up. But the real trick is they walk away before the flames spread. And while everyone's busy arguing about what's real, Fancy Bears are already inside the next system, watching, listening, waiting. Because sometimes chaos isn't the endgame, it's the distraction. Up next, how these hackers move through the dark web like ghosts and what they leave behind.
Number 10. Dark Web Footprint. They move like shadows through a world most people never see. While the average person scrolls through social media, Fancy Bears glide silently through the dark web, a hidden part of the internet where rules vanish and masks are standard gear. This isn't the place for Google searches or TikTok dances. This is where stolen logins, zero-day exploits, and classified files change hands in coded whispers. Cybersecurity trackers have caught traces, forum usernames, anonymous file drops, even malware blueprints, all pointing to Fancy Bear fingerprints. But they don't shout, they don't brag, they plant clues, then vanish. One of their old aliases, Guccifer 2.0, dropped files through a WordPress blog with links tied to Tor networks and dark web paste bins. It looked clean. But behind it was a maze of bounce servers, VPNs, and fake personas layered like onion skins. A forensic analyst once said, "Finding Fancy Bears on the dark web is like seeing smoke with no fire. You know they were there, but they're always just out of reach." Think of it like walking into an empty house, but every door creaks behind you, and the mirrors feel like they're watching you. That's how deep their trail runs, hidden but unsettlingly close. But sometimes the ghosts leave footprints, and when they do, they lead straight to the tools they use to break into the physical world, from airports to election moves. Next up, the battle between code and countermeasures. How cybersecurity teams fight to shut the gates, while Fancy Bears find new ones to open. Number 11. Cybersecurity responses. For every locked door Fancy Bears break through, someone races to bolt it shut again. Cybersecurity teams around the world, government-backed and private sector alike, have been chasing the Bears for over a decade. It's a never-ending game of digital cat and mouse, and the Bears don't make it easy. But defenders are catching on. Companies like FireEye, CrowdStrike, and national cyber units in the US, UK, and Germany have managed to track their movements, crack their malware, and expose their tricks in real time. In 2020, Microsoft took a bold step. They seized control of 50 domains linked to Fancy Bear phishing campaigns, cutting off communication lines before the attacks could launch. Just like that, click, gone.
The FBI and NSA have released public warnings and technical briefs detailing the group's hacking tools and IP patterns, helping targets spot danger before it hits. A lead analyst at CrowdStrike said, "You're not dealing with amateurs, you're dealing with well-funded operators who learn fast, but we learn faster." They've developed software that detects Fancy Bear malware behavior, not just the code, like setting traps that trigger if a shadow moves wrong. Even email filters and outflag messages that match their known bait tactics, familiar sender names, typos placed on purpose, document files rigged to explode on download. Still, no firewall is bulletproof. You patch one hole, they find another. It's like fighting someone in a funhouse. Every mirror could be a threat, and they never walk through the front door. So the war rages on, but now something new is happening. These bears aren't just hacking for secrets anymore. They're shaping what people believe. Get ready, because up next is their most slippery weapon.
Number 12. Disinformation and psychological operations. They don't just hack your computer, they hack your brain. Fancy Bears figured out long ago that facts can't compete with fear, and they've built an entire arsenal around that truth. Welcome to the dirty world of disinformation and psychological operations, PSYOPs, where the target isn't your device, it's your mind. They set up fake personas like Alice Donovan or DC Leaks that look like real journalists or whistleblowers. These digital puppets post stolen info, mix in lies, and sprinkle just enough truth to make people believe. Their goal? Confuse, divide, and stir up anger. During the US elections, they didn't just leak emails, they twisted narratives around them. Suddenly, every headline was a question mark, every voter a skeptic. In one PSYOP campaign, Fancy Bears created dozens of fake Facebook and Twitter accounts, each pushing different sides of political issues, race, police, immigration. People didn't realize both sides were being played by the same hand. A disinformation expert at MIT once said, "They don't need to win an argument, they just need you to stop trusting the truth." It's like someone pouring ink into a glass of water, one drop and everything looks dirty. And here's the kicker. They do it slowly. One post here, one headline there. No bombs, no noise, just quiet whispers that grow louder in your head. But Fancy Bears don't operate in a vacuum. Sometimes they team up, or at least move in sync with other shadowy groups around the world, making it harder to track who's really pulling the strings. Next, we crack open that mystery, the partnerships, overlaps, and quiet alliances with other cyber hit squads around the world.
Number 13. Collaboration with other APTs. One bear is scary. A pack of them moving in sync? That's something else entirely. Fancy Bears don't always attack alone. Behind the scenes, they've been seen moving alongside other elite hacker groups, especially those linked to the same power center, Moscow. Meet Cozy Bear, APT-29, Sandworm, and Turla, each with their own flavor of chaos. But together, they're like a digital hit squad moving in coordinated silence. In the 2016 US election attacks, Cozy Bear was first in, quietly spying on the Democratic servers months before Fancy Bears smashed through with public leaks. One group plants the bug, the other pulls the curtain. That's not luck, that's strategy. Cyber experts have spotted overlapping infrastructure, shared servers, and even recycled malware between these crews. It's like seeing different burglars use the same crowbar. Same tunes, same lockpicks, same house. Their targets change, but their source often points back to the same hallway deep inside Russia's GRU. A cybersecurity investigator once said, "They operate like divisions in the same military. Different names, same playbook." And the scary part? While Fancy Bears stir headlines, the others might be inside power grids, banking systems, or satellite networks, working quietly in the background. It's like watching wolves circle from all angles. One distracts, one stalks, one strikes. But as their alliances grow, so does international backlash. The masks are slipping, and the world is starting to name names. Get ready, because next we face the global response, the indictments, sanctions, and full-force charges trying to bring these ghosts into the daylight.
Number 14. Global sanctions and legal charges. The masks are off, the names are out, and now the world wants payback. After years of silent attacks and digital mayhem, the hammer finally dropped. In October 2020, the U.S. Department of Justice unsealed charges against 6 GRU officers, all linked to Fancy Bears and other Russian cyber units. Their crimes? A list long enough to read like a script. Election interference, Olympic sabotage, malware attacks on Ukraine, and even a hack that paralyzed hospitals in the UK. They weren't just accused, they were named, photographed, and put on blast. The indictment didn't mince words. No country has weaponized its cyber capabilities as maliciously and irresponsibly as Russia, said the DOJ. Alongside that, the European Union, Canada, and the UK rolled out sanctions, travel bans, asset freezes, and public condemnations. These weren't just empty gestures. These were signals, red flags waving in plain sight, telling the world, we see you now. But here's the twist. None of the accused have been arrested. Why? Because they're back in Moscow, protected by walls no warrant can reach. It's like sending court papers to a fortress and expecting the guards to hand them over. And still, the bears keep moving. Because for every name on the list, there are 10 more in the shadows. Unknown, unseen, still active. So here's the big question. What makes them so dangerous even after all this? Get ready, because we're about to break down why Fancy Bears remain the world's most feared hacker group, and what might come next.
Number 15. What makes them so dangerous? You can't fight what you can't see. And that's exactly why Fancy Bears are so dangerous. These aren't everyday hackers bouncing from Wi-Fi signals and bad grammar. These are military-trained digital operatives, backed by billions in funding and protected by the state. They don't guess, they calculate. They don't just breach, they infect, they influence, they vanish. What makes them terrifying isn't just their skill, it's their patience. Fancy Bears will sit inside a system for months, collecting keystrokes, passwords, even private calls. They'll watch quietly while a country votes, while a company negotiates, while a general sleeps. Then, when the time is perfect, they strike. And when they do, it's never just one attack, it's a chain reaction. A cybersecurity veteran from NATO put it plainly. They don't just punch you, they rearrange your entire living room and disappear before you notice anything's missing. Their tools are custom built, their campaigns are political, their timing is surgical. And worst of all, they don't need to touch a single line of code to cause panic. Sometimes all it takes is a leak, a rumor, a tweet. It's like fighting fog with a flashlight, everywhere, nowhere, and always slipping through your fingers. But here's the last twist. They aren't just a group, they're a blueprint, a model, and now others are copying their playbook. The question is, how long before the next Fancy Bear isn't Russian at all?
Fancy Bears aren't just hackers. They're a state-sponsored storm. Calculated, relentless, and dangerously quiet. From rigging elections to rewriting headlines, they've shown the world that power doesn't always come with missiles. It can come through a mouse click and a fake email. As cyber threats evolve, so do groups like Fancy Bears. But one thing remains clear. When the truth can be stolen, reshaped, and weaponized, no one is truly off limits. Do you think governments are doing enough to fight these kinds of threats? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if this gave you chills, hit like, share, and subscribe, because the next cyber war may already be happening behind your screen.